landing a great job opportunity is sometimes very challenging. Breaking into tech and getting hired as a sales rep can be even harder. When I was applying to my first sales jobs, I also struggled with the unknown. What to expect, what the tech industry was like, and how do I break in? After years of being an SDR myself, I've decided to build something I wish I had in the beginning. My name is Stefan, and in the SDR Hire podcast, I interview successful SDRs and salespeople who share their stories straight from the trenches. Learn how they got their first job offers, how they succeed every day in their roles, and what makes them stand out in their organizations. We all have what it takes. We just need someone to remind us of the opportunity and give us a better chance for success. Let's get your next SDR gig. Welcome to another episode of the SDR Hire podcast. Today, I'm talking with Gabi Sayah, an SDR at Stoke Talent. His sales career actually started back when he was in the army without him even knowing it. After the army, Gabi took a couple of years off to indulge his passion for traveling and learning about the meaning of perspective. Finally, right before COVID started, Gabi landed his first SDR role. Now, more about his story, we'll hear directly from him. Gabi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually an honor. I've been following you on LinkedIn for quite a while and being inspired by your posts. So I just had to reach out and see if you'd be open to doing this.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it and looking forward to this.
Awesome. So I usually start off these sessions with just asking, how did you end up being an SDR? Like, was there a specific, path that kind of you wanted to take, or was it just a product of circumstance?
I definitely say circumstance. I don't think I knew what an SDR was before I applied for the job. Definitely did not see me in the sales world. This definitely wasn't part of my plan. And I think what happened was, I think the main thing that happened was when I was deciding what I want to do for university. So I was kind of debating where I want to go to school. I got accepted to a really good school here in Israel. And I ended up deciding to go to an online university here in Israel, and that would allow me also to get more experience while I'm doing school. So it was like a question that I was asking myself a lot. Do I want to just take like the 3-4 years and just be like completely in school and only focus on that? Or do I want to put school, be able to do it on the side and then also be able to gain some real life experience? So that's what I decided to do. And I think that was like the big decision that ended up, leading me to finding, some idea of what I want to do, and lead me into the tech space.
Gotcha. Well, nice. That really sounds like you made it, happen for yourself and made sure you can, explore other things while doing your degree, which was pretty cool. But like when we were interviewing for this, you mentioned, the army and how really it shaped the way you're doing things today. But can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah. So in Israel, you have to do 3 years of service as a male. So I was 3 years a combat soldier in a special unit. And it was a crazy experience. Like, you're 18, 19, joining the army for 3 years. And it's like, on the one hand, I don't think life should be that way. And it's kind of sad that that's how it needs to be. But on the other hand, I did learn a lot and gain, so much from that experience. And I think one of the things, and that it's also helping me the most now as an SDR, is just like being able to be persistent, work hard when times seem like they're not too well. You're not getting the results you want. You just need to continue, move forward, see the bright side. Use maybe your teammates, your buddies, learn from one another, and be able to just continue and follow through. And I think that's been helping me a lot as an SDR, because it's hard. A lot of things you have to do all the time, repetitive tasks. Speaking with decision makers, it's not an easy job. And I definitely think that being in the army and having that experience is helping me today, not only as an SDR, but in general.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so, okay, I mean, you've been in the army, you decided to go to school. Like, how did you actually end up doing sales?
Yeah, so maybe I could give it like a quick timeline, kind of
Yeah,
what
please.
happened. I'll make it a bit more clear. So I did this 3 year service after high school.
Mhm.
Crazy experience, like I said. Learned a lot, had some pretty shitty times also, but in general, good experience. And then I went traveling the world. It's pretty common for people after the army in Israel to go traveling, but I took it a bit to the extreme. I did 2 years, spent like 6 months in Southeast Asia,
Wow.
spent 6 months in the US with a renovated van that me and my friends built, and we just did the whole US, Canada, Mexico.
Amazing.
Also spent some time working in New York. And then I was thinking really about what I want to do for school, like my next plan, my next step. And the idea was to go to this online university, gain experience. So I actually found an internship in a startup in New York called Julius, an influencer marketing
Nice.
company. And yeah, I took that job just to kind of like, I knew that tech interested me. I just wanted to see a little bit more what it's all about, kind of dive into it. So that was a good experience and interesting. And from there, I was started to look into like other possibilities, like where can I take this? What can I do? What else can I learn? And that's where I found Stoke that was looking for an SDR. Like, what the hell was that? But I applied, and then kind of everything rolled from there.
No, it sounds like a fun adventure, but when you say you applied, like, can you dive a little bit deeper? Like, did you apply to like 100 places and then just landed there, or were you looking at just this one opportunity?
Yeah, so I wanted to work remotely. That was
Right.
really important to me. My girlfriend also is studying at an online school, so we kind of had this possibility to live this kind of remote life that we envisioned. So I was looking for companies that are, remote. I was looking for tech companies, and I just started looking at different jobs that I think I would be able to do, like entry-level jobs. I was looking at like marketing and customer success, and then SDR also started popping up, and I started kind of understanding what it was about. And I applied like, I'd say probably 100 companies. And in the beginning, no one replied to me at the beginning. And I'd say like at the end, when Stoke, accepted my application, I probably got 3 or 4 companies that also were interested in me. So it kind of happened like from no one wanting me to like, it felt like everyone was interested.
What was different, like from the beginning of the process by the end?
One thing for sure that comes to mind is LinkedIn. So in the beginning of this whole process, barely knew what LinkedIn was. And I really got like a recommendation to look at LinkedIn, try to apply there, and maybe even starting to like build your network, posting a little bit, trying to be more active. And it turned out that that was pretty good advice.
Nice.
So I really built my network. I even found like one job that did accept me. I just found because I connected with someone. I saw that she posted, about that they were searching for whatever it was. So I just, immediately just wrote her and told her that I'm interested. And then we talked for a bit.
Nice.
So yeah, LinkedIn has so much power these days. And that was definitely one of the reasons I think that I did started getting more replies from companies.
Amazing, amazing, awesome. And so you applied at Stoke. What was the interview process like? Did you have to go through several rounds? Did you do any assessments?
Yeah, so it was 2 rounds of interviews. So it was with my future boss, with our VP of marketing,
Nice.
and then with who was back then was the first account executive. So I was like the maybe 10th or 15th hire as a employee in the company.
Nice.
So it was with the first like account executive also in the company. And yeah, I think that was it. It was just 2 rounds of interviews. And we were pretty much both on the same page.
That's nice. That's awesome. And so if I read that correctly, you guys were acquired by Fiverr at some point, right?
Yeah, so November 1st, I think it was. So like
Last year?
7 months ago. Yeah, we were acquired by Fiverr. It was like a $90 million acquisition.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby. It was pretty crazy, joining like a startup. And I joined in May of last year, so like a year ago. And then, 6 months later, where I started off as like the 10th or 15th employee. 5-6 months later, we're 40 employees and getting acquired by this massive company. So yeah, it was a great experience. Really learned a lot from it.
Wow. Did the structure of the sales development team change in any way? Or like, are you guys still the same unit you used to be?
Yeah, same unit. The company in itself is, still running pretty much like alone. We are getting a lot of, help and collaboration with Fiverr. There's only, upsides to that. But we're still, at least as the SDR team, pretty much still focused on what we were focused on before, same size. We're actually growing now, bringing on a few more. Yeah, that's
awesome. And speaking of Stoke Talent, can you tell us a bit more about what the company does?
Sure. How would I say it? So a lot of companies these days are struggling to find, full-time employees. Some people say there's like a shortage of talent. A lot of good talent are hard to find. Some are going to freelance. So a lot of companies are, when they're filling in the gaps, when they need someone, they're just bringing on freelancers, because also it's more flexible and there's really good talent that's freelancing. When you need someone for like a specific job that you need expertise, it's always good to bring on freelancers. And companies these days are working with tons of freelancers. And the more the time goes by, it's becoming even more and more clear. They say that like by 2030, 50% of the US workforce will be freelancers.
Wow.
Right now, we're standing at like 34% of the US workforce is under contract. So it's pretty crazy. And the thing is that, finding a freelancer might be something that companies could deal with. When you start managing a whole group of freelancers, it becomes hard. So you have to, onboard them and pay them in all these different countries and make sure you stay compliant, and you have to pay them in all these currencies, and collecting all their tax and legal documents and contracts, managing their projects. So Stoke is basically a freelance management system to manage that whole kind of, activity of the freelancers. So we're working with companies that have 5 freelancers, and also lots of companies that have thousands of freelancers and contractors.
Wow. That really sounds like a comprehensive solution for freelancer. I actually haven't heard about it until you and I spoke.
Yeah, we don't have much competition, but I think that as the more companies are just relying on freelancers, they have to have some sort of system to save them time, keep everything organized and compliant. In the US, there's all these laws and rules now for companies when working and dealing with contractors. Like you have to make sure that they're really a contractor and not under contract, but kind of working as a full-time employee. So yeah, we're making sure also, everything's also legal and kind of saving the company if there's any problem, any issue.
Gotcha. Awesome. We'll leave the links of the company below. And speaking of links, I'd love to share your profile with our audience, especially because actually I think you posted this morning or yesterday. You had like an introduction yesterday, and then you posted this morning about your Monday MQL session. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll give a little bit of background. I started posting on LinkedIn a few months ago, like daily. It was kind of like this goal that I had, that I'm going to start seeing what happens if I post every day, and trying to, teach people from what I've learned in my experiences. And it's been going really great. Like 3 months, got tons of traction, tons of upsides to this, even from booking more meetings than an SDR, and even trying, people trying to recruit me, and different connections I've made. Like it's really powerful. And then I think just, I've been thinking, what else can I add? Like, how can I help? What can I add that's different? And I came up with this idea, we'll see how it goes, called MQL Monday, where every Monday I want to share like a real experience, either of my experience or someone else, of how they booked a demo. So the idea is basically to give inspiration to others and really see like a full process of what happened and how that worked. Because sometimes, which it's not a bad thing, but on LinkedIn you could see a lot of things that are pretty general, like do this, do that, personalize. So I'm hoping to get a little bit more in depth, and show really like the process, my thought process, what worked, what didn't work, more actionable insights as well. So yeah, look up MQL Monday. Should be good.
Awesome. That should be actually a hashtag. It kind of sounds like a hashtag, but yeah, I think that LinkedIn has been growing heavily on the content side, and like there's exponentially more creators now than it used to be, like at least a year ago, not to mention a few years ago. And with with that kind of a growth, a lot of people start posting about things in general that are not really useful, both in sales as in anything else. And like I also try to keep my content as actionable as possible. But I wrote your post and it's really like it's gold. I think every SDR and account executive should read it and be like, this is awesome. And by the way, I can just imagine how many recruiters are approaching you to approach you. But since we're on the topic of LinkedIn, there's one post that really stands out on your profile as well. And I know it has a deeper level of meaning for you as well, which is the one where you start with, I don't have the best SDR skills. And then you mentioned what kind of those skills you don't possess. Can you kind of, what's the meaning behind and the intent behind that post?
Yeah, so first of all, I just really agree with what I wrote. So I don't think I'm the best SDR. I don't think I'm the best at cold calling. I don't think I'm the best at, writing emails. My English isn't perfect. I would say I'm in the introvert kind of side. But I think that what does stand me apart from others is that I'm working really hard. So I'm sure everyone is, but I am super persistent. Like I will keep on working, keep on getting better. If someone doesn't answer me, I'll keep on trying to reach him. I'm not giving up. If I keep on every day being consistent, doing my prospecting, doing my emailing, doing my calls. So I think when you're really consistent and really looking also to improve, the sky's the limit. So you don't have to be so good at cold calling. You don't have to be some master email writer. I think just with like consistency and being able to be persistent, like you could really get a lot of things done and a lot of great things done. And I would connect it also to like the Army, like we spoke about before. I'm in the Army, there's time in trainings where all you do is just maybe crawl. You're just crawling like in this desert rocks, like getting all cut up, and that's like your practice. You're just crawling and you have to keep going no matter what. Or maybe you're running like for miles with this backpack of 30 kilos on your back, and you just have to keep going. Like that's just the nature of it, and that's what you're also practicing for if in case of war or in case of whatever. And I think it was a good lesson for me, and it also like built the habit in me just to keep on going. Also, if something doesn't seem to be so good right now, or it's not working, not successful, there's you could always with that persistency and consistency, you could really do anything.
Oh yeah, and we all know that persistency and fighting that adversity when you're cold calling, when your inbox is empty, it really you need that part of your personality, and it really sounds like the Army actually did build up character, although maybe too much. But I guess in the end, it did provide a lot of value for you and your habits.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely learned a lot. I think one thing that I remember for in the beginning as an SDR, was just how much I felt like I didn't know. Like I had no idea what was going on and what needs to happen. And so it could be pretty, it could be a shock. Because especially now with these days when there's like so many companies that are hiring these SDRs, it's like I don't think it's a new thing, but I think like this future kind of SDR, the way it's kind of building right now is pretty new, and not everyone really knows how to go about it, what needs to happen. So there's a lot of learning on your own that you need to do, because also the field is changing all the time. So you have to be able to really be open to learning, and being consistent, and yeah, that's just super important.
Yeah, I can just agree with what you just said, and that's been my experience as well. Like I've been an SDR since like 2020 early, so similar to you, and like it has changed so many times just in this short period of time. And I know based on the stories that those thought leaders and our seniors have been speaking about, like it's been totally different before, like 5 or 10 years ago, when you could just hey, first name, and that's like the most of your personalization, and it was doing the job. But yeah, we all know that shit doesn't work today.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the beautiful things about the SDR kind of world is the community that's kind of been built.
Yeah.
And when everyone's sharing kind of their new approaches, their new strategies, so it's really easy for everyone to kind of adapt and learn and be better. If there wasn't like a place like this kind of one marketplace or one place for community for everyone to go to, I don't think it would have been as fast, and as the changes would have been slower.
Yeah.
So there's so much power in, I think, in community, and I've definitely learned that since I've been more active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, that's just one of the reasons, I started this podcast as well, and why we're having this conversation. But before I forget, I do want to ask you, your profile says that you've had like around 300% month over month quota attainment. Like, it's not always the case. New SDR is, successful in their first 3 to 6 months. So, what has been your secret, other than, being very consistent, as you pointed out?
Yeah, good question. First of all, like that would, I don't know what it is in most companies, but it also includes inbound. So obviously inbound is easier to close. Yeah, and I think it's a lot, just has to do with systems. So, I am changing my approaches throughout since I joined. But there's always systems in place. Like I'm always, I always have those 2 hours a day of prospecting and looking for companies to add to my pipeline. And I'm always making those calls. And so things don't change that much in that regard. So it's in one hand, it's like a numbers game.
Yeah.
If I know that I'm going to do the 2 hours of prospecting, we can add those like 50 accounts to my pipeline. I'll probably see, X amount of demos at the end. And then adding to that like numbers game, adding my creativity, which I think is one thing that I'm pretty good at. I think that's, it makes sure that I will reach those results every month. Yeah, actually my best month so far, which is pretty surprising, was a few months ago in Panama. Was the month with most meetings that I've ever booked.
Awesome.
So it was pretty interesting to me that like when I was actually in Panama, it was a bit, sometimes it could be harder to work. Wi-Fi might not be so good. I want to go to the beach. That was kind of what I wanted to do. But actually it was my best month. So just, yeah, fun fact.
So if you're willing to share, like, how many meetings did you book?
I think it was like 74, 75.
Shit,
Yeah.
that's really crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Including inbound. So
Yeah.
make sure that's make sure that's clear.
But still, I mean, you actually had to go in and call those people and book a meeting and make sure. I mean, if from my experience with inbounds, especially if your marketing is really not still, pinpointed to the perfection
Sure.
that it needs to be, like there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of people just being like, oh, and what do you do? And, I don't remember booking this call and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of like a lot of trash that have to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, for sure. But okay. So you've been an SDR for a while. Like, where do you see your career progressing? Is it more towards management and training people, or would it be towards an account executive role? Like, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question that I'm asking myself all the time. And answers have been changing. So don't take what I'm saying too seriously. And also that's something that I believe in, like in general, is to, even if you have some sort of, idea, sort of goal, like you don't have to be so head in the wall to it. Like you could be more flexible, be able to change. Like that's kind of the nature of our life, right? Like
Yeah.
you have an idea, and usually it doesn't even happen. So things always change. So yeah, that's just a side note. Yeah, I think, I don't know if I would like to be an account executive. I'm not sure that that's kind of the path that's interests me the most. I don't think that I'm I'm a natural salesperson. So I don't see myself sitting on demos for, 45 minutes and just giving a pitch for that. Like maybe I might see myself having a 45-minute discussion and talking, but not like explaining for 45 minutes what my product does. And so I don't think an account executive role is what interests me. Maybe managing some managing some SDRs might interest me. Marketing is something that I find pretty interesting. And in general, I think just like being an entrepreneur and gaining all these, skills that might help me in the future is definitely something that interests me also. So like also products is something that I find interesting. So I'm still trying to understand exactly where I fit in and what I like to do. And it's interesting. It's an interesting journey. And I think being able to just like gain experience. So that's, I think, that, like I said, this was one of my goals when I decided not to go to a university that will, take every minute of my day away, was being able to actually get experience and start just, experimenting, understanding what I like, what's interesting to me. So yeah, that's definitely been working.
No, that's really cool. And I mean, it's not really a question that you can easily answer if you don't have it ready at the time of being asked. And on the other hand, being an SDR is what actually I think can give you the broadest kind of experience that you can really leverage in any role that you would like to go in the next, because you just learn about the technical side of the product. You learn about who's using your product. You learn about different kinds of processes. I mean, so many things that you learn along the way that can help you in literally any of those lanes. And on a personal note, like the product management side of things is probably my biggest passion. If I weren't doing this, I'd probably be trying to break into product development, like a product manager, owner, or something like that.
You're kind of building a product right now, in a sense, in a way.
Yeah. I mean, doing like 10 roles in one as a founder, but yeah, if all of this goes to whatever, I'll probably just try and be a product manager somewhere and just enjoy the rest of my days.
I'll join you.
For sure. Awesome. That would be a nice team. But like, okay, I mean, we're kind of reaching the end of this episode, but this is something I usually ask near the end. Like, is there something specific that you would like to tell anyone that's either trying to break into tech or have already been an SDR in a role and is trying to get to the next level?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think I've been trying to also say this up until now, but to me, it's just like not giving up. I know it's a bit cliche.
I agree.
But I think so much could be done. Like if I would have gave up after, applying to 90 companies, I wouldn't have been where I am today. If I would have given up, pretty early on as an SDR, if I would have made those first 200 calls and nothing would have happened, which is what happens. I wouldn't have been where I was today. So I think just like doing your best and not giving up, and also just getting a lot of help. Like I think a lot of people have helped me along the way. I mean, my experience and my journey so far has been pretty short, so just take that into consideration. But I think getting help from people, networking, talking to people, meeting people, reading about things, learning from your fellow SDRs, learning from SDR influencers, learning from anyone really is just super important. I think that's what I would want to share, and to me that's very important.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And this has really become a topic that's coming around every time that I speak with somebody and interview somebody, which is a lot of research and a lot of leveraging LinkedIn content, podcasts, influencers, and people who are willing to share what they know with the rest of us. And so thanks for sharing that as well. And for sure, I think you were really an example of not giving up and that consistency that really really creates the future that you would like to be in. So that's really inspiring.
I would just add that I think that really, like, I had some sort of vision to what I wanted, and I think that when you think about that vision a lot and you're pretty optimistic about it, like good things could happen. And I at least I felt that throughout my whole life in many things. Like when I had a really clear vision of like what I wanted, like I knew I wanted a remote job, do school, be able to travel, and it happens. Like I wasn't sure it was, but like I was pretty optimistic that I was going to be able to do it. And when you think about it all day, and when you're just doing things that have to do with it, like it ends up happening. That's just like the way I look at things in life. So I think that also connects to that.
For sure, it's very inspiring. Yeah, I tend to think that same way, and just like send my energy to the universe and let it kind of guide me to where I want to be. So that kind of reminded me of what you just said. But yeah, for sure. I guess that's more or less what we had in store for today. I mean, before we part, I think we kind of said everything. But is there anything you would like to add before we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, just if you need any help, feel free to DM me or on LinkedIn or wherever. I'm always happy to help anyone that needs any help. So yeah, that's what I would add.
Gabi, you're awesome, and I appreciate you for your time today. And I'll see you around on LinkedIn, I guess, and perhaps on another show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing this, but also listening to all the other podcasts.
Awesome. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.
Man, appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the SDR Hire podcast, the only podcast exclusively focused on SDRs, where successful salespeople share about their hiring stories and sales adventures straight from the trenches. If you found this useful, go ahead and share it with someone else you know is trying to break into tech or land their next SDR gig. You can find SDR Hire on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and catch you in the next episode.